Did you pull these numbers out of your ass?
Wow. With all due respect, owner, did you pull these numbers out of your ass?
He didn't even lead with that. He just said, did you pull these numbers out of your ass? He goes, I hope you understand how I'm saying. I said, Randy, that's exactly how I expect you to ask me those questions. And the answer is no.
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop.
Hey, everybody, it's Chris and Alan again, and we're having a great time with the Small Business Safari. Alan said, hey, don't roll it. And I said, screw you, man. We're going.
Suck. I'm trying to send a really important email.
He's going to send an email.
Client.
But while he's doing that, cheers, everybody. Welcome back to the Small Business Safari. This episode, we're going to dive into selling your business, getting yourself ready, and trying to get out. We had a great succession planning person on, and you'll hear that episode. But before we do all that, we're going to talk about, should you send, is there a cutoff? Let me put this better. So you go out, you have a couple pops, you go out with your buds, you go to the bar, you have a few beers, and you go back and you see that one email, and that one sends you over the top. It's from that customer who says, you guys suck, you're the worst ones ever, and I'm gonna actually respond in Google and let you guys have it. And you're like, you want to send that email that says, screw you, I'm running a business, I just got a couple beers, my heightened emotions are now through the roof, and I am like on the moon, and I'm just going to come in with you, and I'm going to come in with full howitzers, blazers, blasters. I'm just going to take you the F right out, and I'm going to lay you out. And you send that email. Well, everybody, I've done it.
Of course you have.
Of course I have. And you think it felt good. And you know what happens every single time you send that thing? They respond.
Yeah.
And not positively.
It doesn't go away.
No. So you have to take the higher road. You have to go, well, I'm in the service business, and maybe it didn't go as well as it should have. And I apologize for that because I'm a customer service freak, customerservice.freak on Instagram. Go follow us, Small Business Safari, on your podcasts, anywhere you listen to them, Apple, Spotify, Google. But it's hard because you have to take the high road. And I had to have somebody tell me once that you have more to lose than they do. And that really sucks. It really sucks that you build this business, you put yourself out there, and because they have keyboard courage, they can go sit there, dust off their fingers, and absolutely let you have it with words they'd never say to your face. Because let's face it,
people are wussies.
Thank you. I was going to say cowards, but I like wussies better because they just do it. Man, they say things that if you were there in person, they saw you and you really cared about your business, they'd never say that to you because they know you were trying. And sometimes things just go wrong. But and again,
but they're welcome. They feel perfectly free to blast it out to the entire planet.
I love that person. I got to go tell all my friends never to use you. Well, who are your friends? It's my friends on the internet. You have no friends, you big loser.
Now, I have to say, and this is probably going to be the worst advice I've ever given on the history of the podcast, but my business partner and I have a little bit of a good cop, bad cop kind of a relationship. And he tends to be a little bit more of the bad cop. Now, when it comes to our clients, we're very careful about what we say, but there are vendors or peers, and in commercial real estate, not everybody is as responsive as they need to be. And he has sent some scuds to some people after we've had a couple of soda pops that are hilarious, and they actually get the job done, and there's no collateral damage because, you know, if this other broker's that much of an idiot where, you know, they're not responding to somebody who's actually trying to help them make money and buy their property, then, you know, let's go ahead and detonate. And that's actually kind of fun. But you can't do that with the end user.
Can't do that with the end user. But the other problem you have is that you feel as a business owner, male or female, you are getting neutered because you're not allowed to say things back that they're allowed to say to you because you have more to lose than they do. And that's not fair. And that hurts. And it's so frustrating because you just feel neutered. You feel like, but I can't.
Do you think it's still that bad on social media? Because I do feel like there's the ability now. So at the beginning, I 100% agree. If somebody complained, they were totally holding you hostage because the general public was going, oh, it's in a Google review, it must be accurate. And now it's a lot easier to sense the difference between somebody who's making a legitimate complaint that sounds like all the other complaints that you have on your site and this crackpot who's just throwing everything but the kitchen sink. And I have to say, every once in a while, when I'm looking through reviews, I kind of like it when I see somebody who's defending their business a little bit. And I know that goes against all the advice that you get.
I would say, everybody, do not listen to that advice that I just gave you. However, a formal, nice response, we've said this in an earlier podcast, is okay. I do think this, as the online reviews have matured, because they came online in the middle of my 14 years in business, and as it's matured, I think most people do see through that. I mean, a guy who writes 4 paragraphs about how you didn't get him his free estimate, you're kind of looking at that going, dude, you're a little OCD, maybe a little nuts. You took that long to write.
You won't even read it because it's so long.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do agree with that. So don't feel like you got neutered. And that's a hard thing because you feel like you can't respond. You can't respond with force. You can't do anything about it. You're helpless. And
Well, I was always told to just not engage, because if you respond with more than just a little professional blah, 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 that then they're going to respond, and then you're going to respond, and you just kind of get and end up having a public argument. But again, I think there's a way to formally respond to somebody who's a nut, and everybody knows that they're a nut, and they can see that, okay,
All right. So let's do this. In the world of home services, we go out there, we meet you, and from the moment my guy gets there, he is 100% commission. He wants to get that sale. Our goal is to get you to be a customer. That's the only reason I'm there. And the only reason this person gets paid is if you go with us as a customer. So it's in all of our best interest to make a good representation of ourselves, our company, and what we do, and then go to sell it. So you go to sell it. And one of the things you do as part of in-home sales is you price condition. And you also time condition in our world. And you sit there and go,
define that. What does that mean?
So this person wanted to replace his exterior door on his house. And my guy said, you're probably looking at somewhere between $1,200 and $1,800. He goes, well, that's too much money. I can't do that. He said, well, how long would it take? He goes, I don't know until I can go quote the door. He goes, well, I have to have this done next Wednesday. And it was Thursday. He says, well, I can't do Wednesday. I just can't. And he went, well, I'll find somebody else then. So he left it like that. So my guy never sent an estimate, never followed up with him. And next thing I know, I get a Google review a month later saying that we delayed the sale of his home by a month because we hemmed and hawed and didn't get back with him and respond to him to replace his door before he could sell his house in a market that obviously sells right away anyway. Because we're in that blazing market that it doesn't matter if you replace that door or not, the house is selling. So he writes this long diatribe saying that my guy didn't respond. Yet I saw the email that says, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. I can't meet your timeline. And that was missed. So how do I respond to that? This guy is clearly out of his mind. Okay, that's me saying that, but clearly misrepresenting the facts. Clearly took 4 paragraphs to say all this. I did at least an hour's worth of research and had to look through emails and made my guy send me the email that he sent the customer to look at it. I'm like, do I respond with all the facts back or just go, as a professional company of 14 years with over 14,000 customers, that we understand that we didn't hit your mark or hit your expectation at this point. We'll try harder next time. I feel neutered. I feel like I just gave in to a guy who was completely unreasonable and said what he said at the appointment because I saw the email. My guy didn't get paid. I paid for his gas. He wasted an hour of his time with a guy who said, I want it next Wednesday and your money's too high.
So we've had a few beers
Yep.
And I just, the inside of me says, I just want you to kick that guy in the balls.
I know.
And, but probably the right thing to do. How many reviews do you have now?
We have 560.
And how many of them are 5-star?
Most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're 4.6.
So at that point, it's a game. It's a numbers game. You just, gee, sorry, we didn't meet your expectation, and just, bury it with all the other new reviews. At that point, it's just a game. But if you had, I don't know. I mean, there's a side of me. I think I told you the story once where I was up in Chattanooga. My son was rowing. Did we do this on a podcast?
You did. You talked about the pizza guy who laid into somebody. You said, I'm going to this pizza.
I'm going to this pizza.
Guy, yes. But he took ownership for his business.
He did. He was proud of his business, and it was a very passionate thing. And, the rest of his reviews were good. And so I was actually proud of him. He kind of got all New York on this person. And and when I went in, I said, is the owner here? And they're like, why do you want to talk to him? And I'm like, I'm here because of the response he made to that review. And all of a sudden I became a little bit of a celebrity that day. They were all super excited because, I mean, I'm not recommending that you just go, detonate on everybody that gives you a bad review. But every once in a while, I think, probably the right thing to do is just do the corporate standard response and then just bury a bad review with a lot of good ones.
I've listened to other
but
podcasts.
I also, I mean, to be honest with you, people suck so bad. And, if you, I would say whatever you write that's outside of that corporate thing, get like 2 other people that will tell you no, and have them read it too before you hit send. And
that's some good advice. There's a gold nugget for you, everybody. Have somebody else read it before you send it.
Yeah.
And say, ooh, I don't know about that. Ooh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's a little hot, Chris.
And then you just got to let it go. And just like sales, you got to let it go.
You're looking at your phone. You need to let it go. Do better, Chris.
I am.
So when you started out this year, when you were setting your goals and you have that strategic planning session that you do every year, was one of your goals in the strategic planning session to actually have more vacation days than actual work days?
I didn't have that in my strategic plan. However, I felt like going back to succession planning and thinking about exiting your business, which I'd like to do immediately because of that guy's stupid review. No, I'm kidding. Not really. I'm still going. I got it. I'm so ticked. But in the strategic review, what did I really do? But thank you for bringing up yet again that I take a lot of vacations. So what did I do in the strategic meeting? And we've talked about this in other podcasts. And how about this? This is the mid-year checkpoint for my strategic planning meeting. Did it work?
Yeah.
No. Nope.
Really?
Nope. I'm having a bad year, Ben. For all the goals I put in place for ourselves.
Were your goals too lofty?
I think one of the things that has happened to me is, we talked about this in the last podcast, is I took some bets on some people. I felt like my leadership style. I do feel like I'm a self-aware leader and do well. I picked and took chances in too many spots with the wrong individuals. I am going to look at this business DNA tool because I use the DISC profile, knowing it's not a good hiring tool, using not just my gut, but using other people's opinion of the hire before we make it. And I tried all of that and it didn't work. And so I've turned over 5 people in that strategic planning meeting from January to June.
So when you say you're not hitting your goals, is this a good time for the gap versus gain conversation?
You can bring it up if you'd like.
Well, you're the one who brought it up in the first place.
Well,
I did some homework.
I'm in the middle of the
read the book.
gap.
You never read the book. Yeah, you're looking at the gap. Okay, so you set your goals. You must have had a good 2021.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, 2022 is even going to be better, and we're going to grow like blah, and you're not there.
Nope.
So when you look at the gain, are you actually better than you were a year ago?
Yes. Always getting better.
You're just not where you wanted to be. And my God, I mean, how can these people not do the job I told them to do while I'm here in Cabo or Spain
or Vegas
or Daytona? I mean, the nerve of them.
Keel Island.
They need to work harder.
Charleston.
Yeah.
Michigan. So I had a guy, I'm in a peer group that meets once a month. And then one guy says, do you think you've lost focus? I'm like, no. What? Well,
what are we talking about?
Yeah. He goes, well, with your podcast and all the vacations you're taking. I'm like, hey, time out there, tough guy. Right. I can still run my business from vacation. I actually have a very good nucleus and staff in place. And I will admit this now, I'm in a very hard business. The handyman and remodeling business is a hard business. We did 2,500 transactions in 1 year in people's houses. I didn't have 2,500 people stay at my hotel or my bed and breakfast, my location. You didn't come to my place and then I get to serve you. I went to your place, invaded your space, your time, arguably your number one asset, and the place that your children sleep and your family sleeps. And I had to do work while you lived in it. There's a lot of opportunity for things not to go like you thought they would.
So you did 2,500 transactions last year?
Correct.
And what was, how many did you do the year before?
We did 2,300. Yep.
And your average ticket, was it higher or lower?
Higher.
Okay. Was your margin higher or lower?
Higher.
Bitch.
And I'm still bitching.
You are.
I'm looking at that
You are
gap.
just a little bitch.
I am. It is hard, but you get in that rut. We talked about that in one of the other podcasts, is that, am I in a rut? No, but I also have to be very self-aware and realize that we're just not getting where I thought we would. And we had set some pretty good goals for ourselves. But the guy I'm asking,
and just for the listener, when we started this podcast, his goal was, we're going to be like Rogan.
Yeah,
we're going to make Rogan, it's just going to be in our rearview mirror.
All right,
like,
so I knew
on.
Rogan was a little too high, but come on. I mean, Shameless. I mean, we could get Bateman.
It's not
for the
Shameless.
love of God.
It's Smartless.
Whatever. That's why I said it like that too, because I'm not saying their name out loud again. They don't deserve it.
Maybe we should talk about
Bateman.
goal setting and make it, part of the whole SMART goal thing is R.
So realistic. So that,
yeah.
All right. So my new remodeling manager I put in place, who is clearly the guy I should have picked first. Here's a great example of where leadership has helped me. As I look at, truly, I am thinking about exiting the business. It is 5 years away. It's not 10. It's very realistic. It's something I want to be, and literally, I'm actually starting to accelerate it to 3 years. So I put the right remodeling manager in place, and he came in and he said, "These are the 10 things I want to do." He gave me the list of what he wanted to do.
Yay!
Come on, man. Kicking it.
Yeah.
This guy's been with me for 7 years.
Chris had to blow out some beer burp there
because I was getting excited.
Yeah.
And it was nervous gas. So then we sit down and he said, "Chris, I've been looking at our goals." And he asked the question. He goes, and he didn't, to his credit, he did not use this line. "I don't mean to offend you, but."
With all due respect.
Right. He didn't use any of that. He just said, "Did you pull these numbers out of your ass?"
Wow. With all due respect, owner, did you pull these numbers out of your ass?
He didn't even lead with that. He just said, "Did you pull these numbers out of your ass?" He goes, I hope you understand how I'm saying. I said, "Randy, that's exactly how I expect you to ask me those questions." And the answer is no. But let me tell you what I did. I had what Alan Greenspan would say was irrational exuberance. And if you don't know who Alan Greenspan was, is that he was the Fed chairman as we were doing this huge run up before the crash. So not necessarily out of my butt, I had irrational exuberance. And what I did was I took the trailing 3 months going into the end of the year and said, "Wow, look what my remodeling team can do. And if we want to double our sales, this is the amount of leads we need to have. And this is how we got to go make it happen." And what happened was the remodeling manager quit. 2 sales guys quit. The lady I thought could help us do that, I had to fire her. And then another sales guy quit. So those are my 5. So we lost the sales force, the team that I was trying to line up to make this thing happen, because I had the project managers in place. And we have not, after 6 months, hit our goals. So I took these guys to lunch on a Saturday. And I said, "Randy asked me a great question. Chris, you pull these numbers out of your butt?" And I said, "No." I said, "Truth be told, I had irrational exuberance." I just said that to everybody, but I will say it again. So I said, "All right, well, what's not out of my ass numbers? And let's come up with them right now. I want a best case, worst case, and then I want to hear what your expected case is, because that's the way I work." So we can sense that this is our best case number between June and the end of the year. This is our worst case number. We're flat. And our expected case is that we're going to do this. And so the expected case would be growth and it would be setting the foundation for the growth that we all want to do what we can do in remodeling as we change a half of our business.
Yeah, in the middle of a very turbulent year, and you're still growing and bitching.
Still bitching, and yes, still growing.
Chris, what are we going to do with you? So let's talk about your 5-year, 3-year, 2-year exit strategy. Is it because why? You want to do something else? You're ready to cash out and live on the beach because you're growing fond of the beach and you're there more than you're here, or tired of the business?
All right. So one of the things that we learned in a prior podcast was we're worried about what's next.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about what's next. That's not stopping me from selling my business. What's stopping me from selling my business or exiting is did I truly build the value that I think mine's worth? So what do I mean by that? Let me explain. Aaron Rodgers, a couple of years ago, arguably going to go down as probably the greatest of all time quarterbacks. He's in the top 5.
Yeah, certainly in the conversation.
Right. So he renegotiated his contract because at the time, I think Matt Ryan from the Atlanta Falcons was making $3 million more a year. And he wanted to renegotiate his contract from $27 million. Matt Ryan at the time was making $30 million. I don't know all the numbers, but let's go with it. That's a year, by the way, people. A year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he negotiated and he got to $33 million. Why? Because that $6 million was going to set him apart. That $6 million was going to, okay, now I can get the pool. Okay, now I can get the third bedroom. We're way
now. I
past
really don't have to worry about where the next meal's coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't need it.
No.
Why did he do it? Because he knew with his where he stood in the market and that he wanted to be there. So I have that same problem with my company, is that I have a value in my head that we all have as owners, and we value ourselves in the market, and we value ourselves higher than what typically the market will tell you that you can bear. And you say, well, then you're thinking too low, because you should get the number you think it is. Don't go find a different market. I've heard this from the coaches. I've heard that from the consultants. I've heard the big guys get on the stage and rally people to the State Farm arenas and the stadiums and tell people, you got to think bigger, because if you think bigger, you will be bigger. And I hear that, but I still have a value in my head of what I think my company is worth. And when I went to have it valued, it was not close to what I thought it was worth. So do I want to sell? Yeah, I do. But for the right value and all the things I've built that I know are far superior to everybody. And I have that same superiority complex that many business owners have.
Yeah, it's just like people with, it's like my dad with the house that he had for all the years I was growing up. He thought it was worth 3 times what it really was worth. And he feels the same thing about his car. And I was telling Chris this for the listeners. My 93-year-old father has finally agreed to go into assisted living, and I'm going to be selling his house and his car. And he's going to just go nuclear when he finds out.
So it's the same thing
in
business that it is personal.
Right.
He's 92 years old.
3.
He's got a car and a house.
Shouldn't have the car.
Definitely not the car.
But he does.
And still does, even though he can't drive it.
No,
But
he can drive. He can drive it, just not well,
Just,
according to the police in South Carolina.
I had an aunt one time who said, Chris, I'm a great driver. I'm like, Aunt Rosie, I know you're a great driver. It's the wake of destruction you leave behind you that is what's giving everybody a little cause for concern. So
my dad actually told me the reason why the truckers flash their lights at him is because they all know him from driving on the road so much. And I'm like, may have something to do with the fact that you start cutting in front of them before you actually are in front of them.
that's a great business analogy. And your dad has the same issue that we all have running our business. We think it's worth more than it really is.
Yeah.
If you're a solopreneur, we talked about this before, you are your business, man. It's going to be really hard to sell it in your book of business. Where I could see it working is if you're a financial planner, you're a CPA, you've got a book of clients, you might be able to sell those. But I'll give you an example. I had a handyman years ago say, Chris, I've got a book of clients and I want to sell it to you. I'm like, okay, how much? He goes, well, I've got 80 clients. So I would like, at the time he said, I would like 160,000. I said, for 80 clients. Yes. I know that 40 of them potentially will stay with me. So you're asking me to pay $160,000 for 40 clients. And at the time, I'm adding 40 clients a month to my own business with a 40% repeat rate. The numbers don't add up.
No.
But you could see where he was so proud of it. He actually shut it down and he actually put on his phone message as he quit. Call the Trusted Toolbox for all your handyman needs.
Oh,
So I got it. Well, he wanted to exit, but he clearly told me too much. If he told me a realistic number, maybe I would have done it. But let's go back to this again. You're in your business and you're not thinking about exit strategy. How do you make yourself more valuable, make your company more valuable? If you're not a solopreneur and you're trying to grow it, number one, you got to have good people. Number two, you got to have a solid system and process and performance.
This is where I'm going to be in line with you on the process when you're selling it.
When you're selling it.
Yep.
And number three, I was really worried about the financials, about what I quote unquote ran through the business. And I run them pretty clean. I really do, especially the IRS if you're listening. But we all do it.
Maybe the IRS should be a sponsor.
Not of this podcast. Yeah, pick another one. Yeah, I would not take their money. They'll take mine, but no, I'm kidding. So I wouldn't be worried about it because I went through the valuation process on my business, and it was a very interesting process. And
did you get a second opinion, by the way? Sorry to interrupt.
I didn't. I actually stopped because what happened was COVID hit. I had the valuation of the company, and I was working with a business broker to see what my company would be valued at. I was going to go get the second opinion, but when COVID hit, there was no way I was going to sell at a discount. And I already felt like it was a third of what I thought it would be. And then I realized that I was in survival mode, and I had to beat it down, get through COVID, and then I would sell it again. Well, what happened in the home services industry is we are the place to be right now. Yeah. It's a great business to be in, man. Come get it. Home services. I get eminent.
Unlike what you just said on our last episode.
No, come get mine. Come get mine. So I didn't get a second opinion, but I would tell you it was probably in the ballpark. It wouldn't have been double, and I wanted triple, and nobody's going to come back and tell you triple. So, and I went there and went, I got it. I'm just like your dad when I go to sell my house in Aiken, South Carolina, in a ranch home. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. He says that's worth $1 million. Well, there ain't nothing in Aiken worth $1 million. It's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and you know that, and I know that, but not if I live there. Because if I lived there and I was in that house, I'd probably be right with your dad going, that's $1 million home.
Oh, and all the work you put into it, putting all those brass fixtures in.
Do you have any idea how hard I worked to get this house to keep it up like it is? And you know how much love I put in this house and how much, and do you know who I am? I mean, it's worth $1 million.
I swear to God, my wife and I have already agreed we're just going to move into assisted living now and not put our kids through the same thing.
We all go through that with their families. Jeff Foxworthy put it best at a stand-up comedy show that he had. He said that I had to get my mother a new iPhone, and I got her this new iPhone, and I give her the new iPhone, and she goes, I don't want a new iPhone, Jeff, and I can't believe you're making me do this thing, and I can't stand it, and this is new technology, and she's doing that, and he said, I get home, and she calls and says, Jeff, I have a question. And he said, next thing I know, I'm coaching my mother on how to use her iPhone, and then I hang up. And she calls me back 5 minutes later. Jeff, I have another question. How do you do it? He goes, for the love of God, I raise my kids. I don't even have a chance to get a snack. And now I'm raising my mother.
Right.
And that's how we all feel with aging parents.
So when it comes to you had in your mind what you thought your business was worth.
Yep.
And apparently it's a third of that.
Yep.
Do you have the ability to close that gap within that 5 years, or do you just have to readjust your sights?
I think it's a little both. Being truthful in the answer. I think I need to readjust my sights. It's probably not going to be triple. I did have a strategic plan and goal of saying our business, we were going to do 6 million this year and 10 million the year after. So I was going to look to double my business in 2 years. So therefore it would be worth what I thought it would be worth if I could double. And 6 months into my 2-year plan, we're not even close. We will not double this year. So got some work to do. And I also identified with me that I probably need to lower my sights, that I don't want to give up on 10 million next year in 2023 in turbulent times and an opportunity for recession and a number of other things that are going to happen. I do need to lower my sights a little bit. to be more realistic, if I'm truly going to go up that mountaintop of success, because it wasn't that I needed to have triple, okay, but I am Aaron Rodgers. I'm not Matt Ryan. I am worth more than another handyman company. And it wasn't the dollar, it was the value and the value they put on my business.
What did you learn about the valuation process? Because I know when you're dealing with, you don't, I mean, I know you get a lot of repeat customers, but you do not have like service contracts. So if you had a business that had service contracts, it's probably a lot easier to value it at a higher multiple than I'm just relying on transactions based on my marketing.
All right, gold nugget coming. If Chris had to do it all over again, and he would love to come talk to you about it, and I will, you just ping me, customerservice.freak on Instagram, Chris at thetrustedtoolbox.com, and I will impart my wisdom. If I had to do it all over again, would I have done it? And I shocked one of my friends and I said, no, I wouldn't have. He goes, wow. I said, no, I would have done something. I would have done my business differently with a different exit strategy in mind. And yes, we have an idea. We call it the home maintenance program called Home Mapper, where we come out on a semi-annual or a quarterly basis and we take care of the handyman tasks around your house and also do an inspection. And you'll have those records when you go to sell your home, which will make your home more valuable, which will in turn increase the value of your home. Had I had those contracts in place, my business would be worth more because it's repeat, guaranteed, quote unquote, guaranteed. Again, I wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but I have these service contracts.
Yeah, you folks listening in your car, you can't see. He's winking a lot.
I am winking. And I don't think it's because Alan's cute. We've had way cuter guests. So if I would have done it, I would have done that. I also would have gone multi-unit strategy earlier to prove the fact that Chris didn't need to be in the business for it to run. And the valuations on the multiples there would have worked. That being said, everybody, what I'm telling you to do is very hard. But if I would have stayed focused and not got into remodeling and stayed small handyman and try to do multiple units, I think at this point in time, the Trusted Toolbox would be a very valuable asset to a number of aggregators out there in the franchise industry.
All right. So if you truly have 5 years, you could still do that.
I think so.
Because the second location, with all that you've learned, it's not going to take 14 years or whatever it's been.
No, I've already started the second location. We've already won 6 jobs 1 month. Very small start and haven't even begun to advertise.
Yeah. And you've got all the processes. So it almost becomes franchising within your own deal. I mean,
and I've had a number of other companies who've looked at us and said, and I've had coaches come in here and say, you have more processes than most franchise companies offer to their own franchisees. And I said, but I've had now 3 consultants and 2 guys who ran their own franchise, or who were franchisees, tell me that I go, all right, I believe you. Of course, I believe you to the tune of 3 times my value.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder, can you actually really increase the multiple by having those multiple locations, even if they're newer?
As I've been
you
told,
can show their growth, path is actually quicker than the one that you have because you started from scratch, not knowing what you're doing. You built all the processes and you've taken all that you've learned in 14 years and you've condensed, just like franchising, and you start opening these multiple locations. And they're actually on a growth plane faster than what you had. Does that not make a business valuation?
I think so. Of course it does. Well, I should say, of course, yes, it will. I take the example of Cane's. Cane's is a
Chicken fingers.
Chicken fingers. That's all they do. If you
Anybody outside of the South has no concept of how much chicken is consumed in a variety of ways in the South.
Oh yeah,
unbelievable.
We kill chicken.
Yeah.
And if you go on the road, you'll see chickens going in and chickens coming out, especially here processing. But I listened to the Cane's podcast. It was on How I Built This. He offers chicken tenders, fries, Texas toast, and cane sauce. That's it. Hey, go make a chicken sandwich. Nope. Go make a salad. Nope. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this really well. and I'm going to do this in a number of markets. He's never franchised his idea, kept it as a company-owned concept, and he just got niched down. And niches bring the riches. And if I think about this, going back on it, another mistake I made was I'm going to go remodeling. Remodeling is going to allow me to have the funds to go niches bring the riches and do the handyman thing.
So you were going to expand to contract.
Yes. And how did I do?
Yeah.
So dumb, big mistake. But I just loved remodeling so much that I just couldn't stay away from it. And I ran the numbers and I made the numbers work for what I wanted to do. I really enjoy talking to people about their bathrooms, their kitchens, remodeling their homes, the bigger ticket items. So I had to take a swing at it. It's taken me 6 years to get the business to the level I thought. I think at this point, though, I have the right people. And that's been the critical point. I've taken so many chances on people and thought I could coach them up and get them there. But I have 3 success stories that I want to share with everybody. And these were the good ones. So,
well, success stories usually are good.
Yeah, but I have a lot of negative ones. I have a lot of bad ones.
Those aren't success stories.
No. So today, my remodeling manager came to interview with me. And I said, look, all I have right now is a technician position. He says, Chris, I've been doing framing and custom home building for 30 years. I'll take it. I said, great. Hey, by the way, one of my guys needs some help carrying a tub into a bathroom. So we're going to make this a working interview. And he got him in the truck. We went over there and the 3 of us dropped a tub in for a customer and came back out. To this day, Randy, 8 years later, is now my remodeling manager. I passed him over and hired somebody from the outside, thinking this could be a great entrepreneurial opportunity for this individual, thinking I could take a chance on this. And this person's a great person. Had all the pedigree, the stuff that I thought would work, and it didn't work. And he got called back to his old world, and he can make a lot of money sitting in his house and taking care of his family. And I said, you got to take that job. So no ill will. But Randy, high bias towards action, gives me the 10 things he wants to do in the business after he's seen it. And he went from 6 months ago, he doesn't know this, but I do, that he was thinking about just retiring, not quitting because he couldn't quit because he would retire, to now this guy is pinging me at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night, giving me ideas where I'm telling him, hey, turn the phone off and go watch the Braves game with your wife. Turn the phone off and go cook for your family because you love cooking. So he's doing all of that. I have my sales manager, Greg, and Greg came to me and I saw his pedigree and his profile. And I said, all I have is a handyman position. He goes, okay, I'll take it. And he wasn't our best handyman. He wasn't very good, frankly. His qualities kind of sucked.
Does Greg listen?
Customers loved him. I'm going to make him listen to this. So I went, wow, his handyman skills just are okay.
They suck. Really?
Yeah, they really just kind of suck.
Yeah.
I said,
Sorry,
hey,
Greg.
I have a project management position. Why don't you do that? Because you got great customer service skills. You know how to talk to people. You can do that. I put him in project management. He sucked
At project management.
at project management. I'm like, oh my God.
What is he good at?
Right. So I said, all right, let's have you go into sales. So I made him an estimator. I go out there and I'm the one that's going to train him. I'm like, all right, his name is Greg. All right, Greg, we're going to go out and sell. And I said, I have a 10-step sales process. You're going to follow my sales process. I have the whole sales process. I'm going to give it to you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the 7 open-ended questions we ask when you show up there. We go there. We show up at the customer's house. And I said, all right, you got to ask these questions. How long have you been in the house? How'd you hear about us? What are you looking to accomplish? And so we show up. The lady says, hey, how you guys doing? Yeah, good to see you. Yeah, we've used you guys before. And he says, how'd you hear about us? And she goes, okay, so she ignores him, and she
we've used you before.
Yeah, my husband just wants you to give him a quote for this. What are you looking to accomplish? And he's just going on. I mean, everything he did.
He's trying to do what you told him to do.
Exactly. So what did Chris learn? Chris is a shitty ass manager and trainer. And I was like, dude, from now on, don't listen to what I said. Just do it. Just do you. To this day, he is now my best sales guy and is now my sales manager. right guy, right spot, right position. But I had to go through a couple of those. Third, today, my quality assurance manager is a guy named Ron Truman. Ron shows up from West Virginia. And he shows up from West Virginia, and he had worked in the hospital for 15 years. But he did siding and remodeling on the side. Well, siding and remodeling on the side in West Virginia is a lot different than Atlanta, Georgia. A lot of vinyl siding. Additions, let's just call them 2x4s and a couple pieces of plastic above so you can sit
What are you
outside.
saying about West Virginia?
I'm saying everything he'd said about it.
Mm.
So Ron came as a helper, not even a lead technician. And he just kept learning and trying and working and doing all the things he could do. And next thing you know, he builds up his tool set. He becomes a lead technician. Then, as a lead technician, he starts calling out sick a lot. And you're like, oh boy, here we go. It's over. And he's just exhibiting all the signs of being a guy who's about to quit, not somebody you would promote. So I sat down with Ron. I talked to him for a little bit. And this is where I said in a previous podcast, I didn't have the gut, but I took a chance. I said, Ron, this is what I want to do. He said, sir, I used to coach baseball and football youth. And this is what we did. And I umpire baseball games. I do that for extra money on the side. And he tells me the whole story. I said, Ron, I want to promote you to be our quality assurance manager. And what we did is we, quote unquote, promoted Ed right out of the damn business. I fired Ed and put Ron in position. And today, Ron takes ownership and responsibility for his 15 technicians, handymen out there, and is the guy who I just had to kick out the door again at 7:00 at night. Again, I don't make these guys work like that. They just do it. And I tell them, you got to take some more breaks. So Ron, Randy, and Greg, great success stories. Of those three, I could probably sit here for the next 25 minutes and tell you about 25 other bad ones.
So what'd you learn?
I learned that I still got to take chances on people. You still got to take chances, and you got to find out what motivates them. And sometimes it's not always money. Yeah, there's money, but you got to find things that really start to tickle their interest. Ron loves coaching. Ron loves teaching. And now he's in that role where his body was starting to let him down a little bit, but he couldn't do as much things in the field anymore. But his mind is willing and his body can come around and do this stuff. What did I learn? I learned that even though the guy might be in the wrong spot, but you know he's just got a good heart, he's a good person, you got to get him, as Jim Collins says, in the right seat on the bus.
And it's kind of funny because when you just listen to this, and I know there's a lot of more details that you haven't got into, but basically I'm hearing, you kind of sucked and are becoming unreliable, so I'm going to give you a promotion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Peter Principle.
Right.
Hey, great management team. So by the way, if you're looking for a job, come to here. And if you suck real well, you'll probably get promoted. But that's not it. I just saw something in these three guys that I knew I didn't want to give up on. And it took me a while, but I did. But there's other guys, people say you get one chance, right? I've given guys 3 chances. I've lost money. I've given guys loans. I've lost money. I've given guys leeway. They stole the iPad. I've given guys leeway. They stole money from me. It's happened. You're like, oh, Chris, you're a sucker.
And those people
You're a
are
loser.
just going to bounce along the bottom for the rest of their lives. And if
Yeah.
anybody's listening to this who's not in leadership, not in ownership, you're just, I don't know why you'd be listening to this, but maybe you have aspirations. It just doesn't take that much to have good character and do a good job. And people are going to freaking love you. And if you're in a place where they don't love you, then, find somebody, you give your right arm to have people like that.
I had a prominent leader in a company tell me once is that if you really are counting on people, you're counting on failure. I'm like, wow, that's a tough line.
Especially when everybody would, on the other hand, say, you're only as good as your people.
Yeah,
You have to count on your people.
you do. And so to exit a business, especially in home services, you need people. And you need to find the person or a group of people who can run your business. Today, my company, if I keeled over and died tomorrow, which if I keep drinking like this probably will happen, it could run for a while, but it can't run for 18 months. So I've got to figure out something.
So, well, you're testing that with all your vacations.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm doing a little trial
It's
test.
science.
And actually, I did try to test, because I've heard this before. If you can stay away from your business for 30 days and it runs without you, that's one financial cycle, then you are truly out of your business and you can now start working on your business and not in your business. So I got really close to that. I can do 3 weeks. I can do 2 days in a week being in the business and 3 days being off the business. I have the chance to do this podcast. I haven't gone on vacations. It's close. But here's what I told my guys. Here's the challenge I just gave. And I'm going to drop a gold nugget. At what temperature does water boil?
212.
212 Fahrenheit. At 211, it's
really hot.
Water.
Yeah.
At 213, what is it?
It's water.
Steam.
Oh.
It just takes 1 degree from 211 to 212. And I said 213 to give you an extra one. All you need is that extra 1% to turn water to steam. That 1%. And that line was given to me this year. And that's the line that I think has kept me from some of my gap as opposed to realizing my gain. I need to find those 1%ers, those guys who are going to take and give that one extra degree to push it over the finish line and get us to where we want to be, 6 to 10. And so we call it, I use the bowling analogy, we'll go for 6, we'll go for 10. 10 pins, knockdowns to strike. So we went for that.
It does make me think of the question you asked Beth on our last podcast of, some creative ideas for getting good people. And is it just a function of money, having the balls to pay more, or is it more than that? I remember when I moved to Atlanta shortly after the Olympics, and I remember seeing an article in the paper that there was a software company that, that's how long ago, because I was reading it in the paper. It was a software company that all their employees got a leased BMW 3 Series, which you're like, that's ridiculous. But if you actually see how much it costs to lease a BMW, it's really not that much compared to what they may demand on salary. But I was thinking, that's just genius, because if you want to quit that company, you got to turn in the keys to this BMW. I just thought that was just tremendously creative.
Yeah, that's a good one. She's right about thinking creative. This is the hardest hiring market that any of us have ever seen. Why? This podcast is not for that. What do you have to do about it? Is you have to be unique. You got to prove that
we got to keep the people that you have.
Number one.
That's number one.
Business.
The retention is more important than the hiring.
Yeah. But this world is it's a hard market, restaurants, in my world of construction, loyalty is just one breath away from brevity. They're gone. They're on their way to the other one. And so you got to keep them busy. You got to show them that there's an opportunity. You got to show them that there's an opportunity to make more for their own family so they can hit their own personal and professional goals. And you got to be unique. So one of the things we do is we're actually just genning up our next happy hour. So happy hour is on Friday afternoon at 3:00. We open up the back of the office. We start grilling out, and there's waters, there's sodas, there's other drinks, as it were. And guys show up after work, and we all get together, and we have a little time to get together and do our thing. So that has proven to be really part of our culture and our fabric, which has been really cool to keep the guys.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Man, we've had a lot of fun, but it's just been Alan and Chris, and we have some great guests coming up. You've got to stay tuned.
Yeah, you're starting to get some really smart people.
They are really smart people. We've had some great people on so far. We talked about our 1-year anniversary. I've got people now pinging me, asking me to come on because they're listening to us. So if you want to ping me, hit me up at chris@thetrustedtoolbox.com.
I would like people to ping you for ideas of what they want to hear about.
Come on, let's do Q&A. We'll open it up. I think one time we might have to go live. We might stick it on Facebook and just go Facebook Live and do the podcast at the same time. Just call it Q&A. I do get a smattering of calls. or emails rather about other topics they want to have. Usually people are just calling saying, "Hey man, I love the podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, well, what else would you like to hear?" Crickets. I'm like, come on, get back here. Come on, man. I tell you what, if this isn't gritty, insightful advice that you can't use and put in, I don't know what is, because I keep hearing from other guys like, dude, you're saying shit that people don't say that need to be said. And it helps me and it hits me right between the eyes. So you got to keep listening to the Small Business Safari with Alan and Chris. Go out there and listen to us on our podcast and keep going up that mountaintop of success. Let's go make it happen together. Let's go.
Let's go.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Small Business Safari. Remember to keep that positive attitude, which will reflect in a higher altitude as you're out there making it happen in the wild world of small business ownership. Until next time, go make it a great day, Adventure Team.